I was so tired I didn't notice the glass at first. My feet crunched over it before my brain registered the mess: scattered shards, torn cushions, a cracked TV screen glinting in the gray morning light. The air reeked of cheap beer and something sweeter stale perfume, maybe weed. I didn't move. I just stood there, keys still dangling from my fingers, sweat from the night shift still clinging to my neck. Then, I saw her. Calla sat cross-legged on the rug, surrounded by the wreckage, painting her nails as if she were lounging at a spa. Calm, pleased, like none of it mattered. She didn't even look up when I stepped forward. "What the hell happened here?" I asked, my voice hoarse from exhaustion and disbelief. She blew on her fingers and shrugged. "Maybe you had a breakdown and forgot," she said. "Or maybe now it finally looks like the home of the monster you are." My breath caught. That word, monster. She didn't shout it. She whispered it, wrapped it in something worse than rage. "Contempt." "Watch your mouth," I said louder than I meant to. "I work myself raw to keep this roof over your head, and this is how you treat it." Calla stood slow and deliberate. Her eyes didn't flinch. She stepped right up to me until I could smell the mix of nail polish and rebellion on her breath. And then she spat, right in my face. "You're nothing," she hissed. "A pathetic woman with a job no one cares about, and a daughter who hates her. You can't even control your own house. No one would believe you if you told them what happens here." I didn't raise a hand. I didn't scream. I just wiped my cheek with the sleeve of my jacket and looked her in the eye, steady. "You don't know what you've started," I said quietly. She smiled, tight satisfied, and turned away like she'd won something. That night, I didn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table in the dark, sipping cold coffee and staring at nothing. My fingers ached to paint, to do something normal, but I didn't move. I just remembered every shift I pulled, every birthday I made happen, every lie I told her to protect her from the truth about her father, and now she called me a monster. At 1:17 a.m., I slipped a folded piece of paper under her door. I'd practiced her handwriting enough, over the years signing field trip forms, doctor slips, excuses for gym class. I knew the loops and slashes like muscle memory. She would read it and wonder, and that was enough for now. When Calla was 5, her father told me he was going to grab milk. He never came back. No note, no phone call, just silence. One minute Marshall was folding laundry on the couch, the next he was gone like vapor, leaving behind his keys, his socks, and a child who cried until she made herself sick. For a while I told her he'd had an emergency, that he'd call when he could, that he still loved her. At first I believed it myself. I quit art school that spring, took a night job loading freight at a warehouse so I could be home before sunrise. Sleep became a luxury I rationed. I taped sketches on the fridge just to remind myself I was still a person under the uniform and the exhaustion, but I never missed a field trip form. Never forgot a birthday. I showed up to every parent-teacher conference, every vaccination appointment, every play where she had one line and a paper crown. When Calla had the flu, I held her through the night and called in sick, knowing the paycheck would come up short. She was my purpose, my reward, my only family. Then something shifted. At 14, she began disappearing for hours after school. Came home smelling like smoke and drugstore perfume. Her sweet voice turned sharp, her smile a dare. She wore clothes that said "Dare me to care," and every time I reached out, she pulled further away. I told myself it was just teenage dust. Hormones. Growing pains. But then the school called. The guidance counselor asked if I could come in. "We just want to touch base," she'd said. I sat in that stuffy office as they handed me a report. Calla had a bruise on her shoulder. When asked, she'd said I gave it to her. I felt the room tilt. My hands went cold. The air became too thick to breathe. It wasn't true. I had never not once laid a hand on her, but none of that mattered. CPS came by, took photos. Asked me if I'd ever lost my temper, inspected the fridge, measured her bed. For days I was treated like a criminal in my own home. The case was dropped. No evidence, they said. Probably a misunderstanding. But they never apologized. And Calla never explained. I didn't know if she'd lied for attention or out of spite. I only knew something between us cracked that day, and whatever innocence had lived in her eyes was gone. I thought we'd find our way back. I was wrong. The night I left that note, I heard her bedroom door creak open around 2 a.m. The silence stretched like wire, then came the soft rustle of paper. The note I wrote wasn't long, just 4 lines. You forgot who paid the bills, who taught you to lie. You forgot who covered for you. Sleep tight. I wrote it in Kala's handwriting. Years of forging late slips and permission forms made the muscle memory effortless, slanted G's angry little dots over every I. I folded it twice, slipped it under her door, and went back to the kitchen without a word. I didn't sleep that night. I didn't need to. I listened. Around 2:00 a.m., I heard the rustle of her blanket, then soft footsteps on the carpet. Her door opened, paused, then shut again with more care than usual. I imagined her picking up the note, unfolding it, rereading it again and again, like some warning coded just for her. I pictured her trying to guess who left it. She didn't come out again, but she didn't sleep either. I saw the hallway light stay on till morning, and hers. She didn't trust the dark. The next day, she avoided eye contact at breakfast. Not silent, but softer. She asked if I was working that night. I told her yes. She nodded and muttered something about leftovers. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. That night, while she was distracted binge-watching some crime show at full volume, I pulled the old baby monitor from a storage box in the basement. It still worked, surprisingly. I plugged it in by the laundry room and placed the receiver in the hallway near her bedroom. She wouldn't notice. She never paid attention to anything that wasn't glowing or vibrating. I went to bed early and waited. It took a while, but just past midnight I heard her voice. Faint, but clear enough. She was on the phone. Probably that same friend Tessa, the one who always wore too much eyeliner and lied as easily as she breathed. She's losing it, Kala said. I swear if I go missing it was her. Silence. Then laughter. I'm serious. She left this creepy-ass note like in my handwriting. I didn't even tell her about the bruise thing from last year. A pause. You remember that, right? The one I told school was from her. It wasn't. But they believed me. I could ruin her, like, completely. One phone call. More laughter, then footsteps, then silence. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the rage in my chest like an anchor. She hadn't just lied. She'd planned it, planted it, and now she wore it like a trophy. I knew then that she didn't fear me. She didn't fear anyone. That was about to change. The next day I started the folder. I bought a flash drive and labeled it December. It meant nothing, just a name to keep it hidden in plain sight. On it, I saved everything: audio recordings from the baby monitor, screenshots of Kala's burner accounts, photos of her stumbling home at 3 a.m., mascara smudged eyes glassy. I even found an old voicemail from her teacher, warning me about aggressive messages Kala had sent anonymously to a classmate. I downloaded that too. The truth, it turned out, wasn't fragile. It was digital. I made copies, one on the drive, one on a private email, one on paper. A folder went into the locked drawer in my bedroom. Another into a manila envelope I kept in the bottom of the linen closet, beneath a pile of old towels she never touched. I waited 3 days, let the silence stretch, let her wonder. Then I typed the second note. You want to play the victim, but I have your messages. I have the photos, the voice clips, the bruises you made yourself. Sleep tight. I left it under her door and went back to the kitchen like it was just another Tuesday. She screamed 20 minutes later. You're sick, she shouted, storming into the hallway with the note clenched in her hand. You need help. I stood still, hands calm on the counter. Go to bed, Kala. She didn't reply. Just stood there like she was trying to decide if fear or fury would win. She chose neither. She retreated. For the next 2 days, she barely spoke. Ate toast in silence. Didn't slam her door. Didn't yell. Just stared at her phone and picked at her nail polish like it held the answers. I thought the quiet might last. It didn't. Friday morning, my boss called before sunrise. He sounded uneasy. Lorraine corporate flagged something. We got an anonymous tip saying you've been stealing warehouse supplies, hiding them in your garage. My stomach flipped. That's not true. I know. But legal needs to follow through. They're doing an audit today. I hung up, didn't panic, walked to the garage and opened the side door. There it was. A large box marked DuraShip Logistics, my company, taped shut, but the barcode was familiar, definitely inventory. I hadn't put it there, but I knew who had. I took photos. Then I called the police myself. When the officer arrived, I said nothing, just showed him the security footage from the motion camera I had installed weeks ago. There she was. 3:22 a.m. hoodie, up dragging the box from the trunk of her friend's car into our garage. They arrested her. She didn't scream this time, didn't plead. She just looked at me like she didn't recognize who I was anymore. Which was funny, because I had finally stopped being who she thought I'd always be. The arrest should have been enough, but the next morning the detective called me in. There's something else, he said, sliding a printout across the table. It was a screenshot. A list pulled from Cala's phone, 5 names, mine at the top. Beside it, erase. My hands went cold. She says it was a joke, he added quietly. Some edgy teenage thing. I stared at the word. It wasn't anger. It wasn't lashing out in the heat of the moment. It was written, stored, intentional. She's never hit me, I said. Not physically. But this feels like a wound. He nodded. We're not pressing charges for this. Yet. But we documented it. They released her that evening. She didn't come home embarrassed or scared. She came home smug, like a prize fighter stepping back into the ring. She walked past me in the kitchen without making eye contact. You know, she said, grabbing a soda from the fridge, maybe I'll just go live with Dad. At least he's not insane. I dried my hands on a dish towel and followed her into the hallway. You want to know why he left? I asked. She scoffed. Because of you, obviously. I didn't answer. Just walked to the hallway closet, reached behind a box of batteries and pulled out a flash drive. Small. Silver. Old. She frowned. What's that, a voicemail? I said. He left it the night he walked out. You've never heard it. Maybe it's time. I plugged the drive into a portable speaker and hit play. Marshall's voice, scratchy but unmistakable, filled the air. Lorraine, I can't do it anymore. She lies. She manipulates. She scares me. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells in my own home. I'm sorry, but I can't live like this. Silence. The message ended. Cala didn't move. Her eyes darted, looking for something, an excuse, a loophole, a shield. He left because of me, she said, voice barely above a whisper. I didn't answer right away. Just looked at her steady. You were 5, I said, and I was the one who stayed. I lied for you, covered for you, protected you. Her jaw tensed. You're making this up. I shook my head. That's your voice on the list, not mine. She turned and stormed upstairs, door slamming hard enough to rattle the kitchen windows, but I knew something had shifted. She hadn't denied writing erase, she just didn't want to believe what it revealed. The next morning, I downloaded the emancipation forms. I filed the paperwork the next day. Not to punish her, not out of spite, but because I was done holding the line for someone who kept lighting matches. Emancipation, legal adulthood before 17, it meant Cala would be on her own, financially, medically, educationally. No more insurance. No more legal guardianship. No more access to the things she took for granted while tearing me down. I changed the locks. Disabled the garage opener on her car. Canceled the phone plan and shut down every shared account. I contacted the school and blocked her access to my contact information. The silence felt different now, cleaner. She came back 3 days later, slammed her car door like thunder, banged on the front door like it was still hers to enter. Open the damn door, she screamed. You can't do this. I didn't move from the couch. The Ring doorbell was already recording. You're my mom, she shouted at the camera. You don't get to fire me. I stood up, slowly, walked to the intercom, and pressed the button. You fired me as your mother the day you framed me. There was a pause. She didn't scream after that. Just stood there, frozen. I'm done, Cala, I added quietly. Go be the adult you think you already are. She turned and walked away without another word. I didn't cry. I didn't pour a drink or call anyone. I sat at the table and opened the folder again, my version of scripture. The truth documented. Protected. That night, I emailed it. 1 copy to the school district's disciplinary board, 1 to Child Protective Services, 1 to the local education liaison who oversaw youth re-engagement programs. Each email included a quiet subject line regarding student Calla Bellamy, history of behavioral misconduct and falsified claims. No emotion, just facts. Screenshots, audio clips, a timeline. No more covering, no more defending. She would write her own story now with ink she could no longer borrow from me. I took a long shower and changed the sheets on her bed, not for her, but for me. I wanted every room to feel like it had been reclaimed. The house felt quieter but not empty. It felt like mine. And that night, I slept. Not because the pain had passed, but because the bleeding had finally stopped. 8 months later, I opened the drawer. The folder was still there, untouched, unopened, just in case. 8 months passed. Long enough for the house to forget her footsteps. From what I heard, Calla bounced between couches, burned bridges faster than she crossed them. She'd enrolled in a local GED program, but got kicked out after 3 weeks for harassment. Not even the coordinator who'd once called me in tears about how bright she seemed could defend her this time. She burned through friendships like cigarettes, 1 puff of drama at a time. Tessa blocked her. 2 others filed complaints. 1 girl's parents filed a police report. Nothing ever stuck, but the pattern was clear. Calla hadn't changed. She'd just run out of people to charm. Every now and then I still got messages, blocked numbers, fake emails, usernames I didn't recognize. All of them saying the same thing. You're a monster. I hate you. You ruined my life. But I didn't respond. Not once. That silence wasn't revenge. It was self-respect. Meanwhile, I got promoted. Floor supervisor, steady hours, better pay. I finally took a trip to Cannon Beach alone and sat with my feet in the water until the cold no longer felt like punishment. I started dating again. Nothing serious. Just dinners and shared laughter that didn't carry weight. For the first time in years, I wasn't afraid of being seen. And I started volunteering at a local resource center for parents with teens in crisis. Not to teach, not to judge. Just to sit across from another mother who looked like she hadn't slept in 3 years and say, I believe you. Sometimes that was enough. Other times it wasn't. I never mentioned Calla by name. Just my daughter past tense implied. When people asked if things had gotten better, I told them the truth. I got better. She didn't. I wasn't proud of that, but I wasn't ashamed either. Healing doesn't always come in the form of a reunion. Sometimes it's a locked door, a quiet dinner, a full night's sleep. I still kept the folder, still checked the doorbell camera every night, still had her name flagged in my inbox. Peace didn't mean naivety. It meant readiness without obsession. One Saturday, I passed the old mirror by the front hallway, the one that used to reflect a woman who didn't recognize herself. This time, the woman looking back was steady. Lined, yes, a little gray around the edges, but whole. I walked past the mirror and opened the drawer just to check that the folder was still there. It was, right where I left it. Quiet, cold. Truth waiting just in case. Then I went out back to water the garden. I opened the drawer this morning. The folder was still there. Same weight. Same cool smoothness beneath my fingers. Inside, nothing had changed. Typed notes. Grainy screenshots, time-stamped recordings. School letters folded with the kind of precision only anger creates. Police statements. Attendance reports. Even the printed voicemail from Marshall tucked in the back like a final chapter. I didn't pull anything out. Just knowing it was intact was enough. I closed the drawer. The sun poured through the window in gentle strips across the kitchen table. My mug steamed with lavender tea, my favorite, the one I never used to buy because it felt too indulgent. Now I kept it stocked right next to the honey. Small kindnesses for no one but me. The easel stood near the back door canvas, half filled with shades of ochre and indigo. I'd started painting again. First it was shaky lines, uncertain hands. Now the brush moved like memory, like breath. I wasn't trying to say anything profound. I was just remembering how to speak without words. I didn't think about Calla as much anymore, not in the sharp way. Not like a wound, more like a scar on a familiar stretch of skin there, but quiet. Sometimes I saw girls her age, walking down the street, laughing too loud into their phones. I wondered if they knew the power they held in their voices, in their choices. I wondered if someone somewhere was trying to hold them together like I once did. I didn't hate my daughter. I loved her with the kind of ferocity that doesn't die, only retreats. But I didn't miss her. That was the difference. Missing someone means you still want them close. I just wanted her far enough away that she couldn't burn what I'd finally rebuilt. I looked out the window toward the hydrangeas blooming wild and unruly by the fence. They didn't need pruning. They needed space. Some daughters aren't lost. They're forged in fire. But some are wolves pretending to cry. I took another sip of tea. Warm, floral, unhurried. The garden needed tending and the light was just right. The folder stayed closed. And I stayed free.